Hello, and welcome back to the Everyday Trainer podcast. My name is Meg, and I am a dog trainer. Today, I'm joined by the lovely Andrea. See, I already fucked it up.
Good. It's all good.
Of Canyons Canines. We've had too much to drink already. I already can't speak. This is going to be a good episode. We're talking about all the dog trainer stuff. You guys know the drill. Grab yourself a tasty drink and meet us back here. Hello. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for coming to Salt Lake City.
Thank you for having me in your home and giving me alcohol before the podcast.
Happy to.
So our tasty drink of choice today is, what'd you make us?
It's a margarita.
A margarita. We love it. We love tequila. I feel like every time I drink on this podcast, it's always tequila. So this is now like my designated drink of choice. All right, let's go ahead and jump into how I keep messing up your name. Let's tell the people.
We shall tell the people.
Yes.
My name is Andrea.
Andrea.
There's 3 ways to say it. There's Andrea, there's Andrea, and I got the most complicated way. It's Andrea.
It really like messes with my brain for no reason.
It's okay.
It's because it's both of them combined. You have like it's not like the Andrea, you know, but you have like the hard E, but not the hard A.
Soft A, hard E.
Yeah.
Soft A.
So we are filming this episode in your home. So
welcome.
Yeah. I love it. It's very cozy.
Thank you.
You have all your little animals.
Yeah.
Introduce us to your dogs, and you have 3 cats?
I have 3 cats.
Okay. Crazy animal lady. We love it.
We've got all the animals. We've got Cheez-It, and he's obviously an orange cat. We have Squid, who's a black cat, and then Jedi, who is super nervous. So you've not seen him.
Okay, I was going to say.
He'll come out in like the middle of the podcast, probably like creeping by. He's like, don't look at me. And then we have Piper, my OG.
The queen
bee of the house, the no rules girl.
So cute.
She's so cute. She's
How
a
old
good
is
girl.
she?
She's 10. She's living life. She's doing what she loves, which is, being pushy and smacking you to give you
bossing me around,
yelling at me, putting her paw on you, give me food. Probably the most well-known dog of mine is Panda, my cattle dog, who she's a whole vibe. She's my redneck Malinois.
I love it.
She's a lot of fun. And then I have Stan, who was my foster fail that I got from Sherry Lucas. I've had him for a year now. And then I have a foster dog, Obi. So I have 4 in my pack right now.
You are also a crazy dog lady.
Yes, I am.
I love it.
Proud of it.
I love it.
Yeah.
So first things first, I kind of want to get into like your background. I always like to ask people like how they got into dog training. So you have a killer dog training business here in Salt Lake City, Utah. And I want to hear kind of your backstory, how you got into the dog training world and how you got to where you are today.
The origin story. Yeah. So before I had children, I was a veterinary assistant. So I got to handle tons of dogs. I wanted to be a veterinarian when I was a child, and that just, when I became an adult, seemed like an unrealistic avenue. So I worked in the veterinary field as an assistant for a while. And then I had my babies, and then I got into dog walking, which we talked about is like our favorite way of getting into this world.
Very underrated. Like
very
I think
underrated.
More people should get involved. Like people who want to be dog trainers, start walking dogs. Like I think it's the best way.
Get your hands on lots of dogs, talk to lots of people. So dog walking turned into dog sitting, and then that turned into pack walking. And then that turned into dog training with a company out of Philadelphia. So I've been in the industry for about 10 years, professionally training for about 6.
Nice.
Yeah.
What did you learn the most when you were walking dogs?
Well, what not to do. One of the big takeaways, I think, as a dog walker was, coming into a home when no one was home.
Yeah.
And, you have access to their house and their dog is free ranging. And as I'm just trying to start my business and gain clients, not having a lot of clear criteria of like, what's my ideal client? or the dog that I'm walking into a house that the dog is like super defensive and barking at me. And I'm like, I feel like you should be in a crate.
Something needs to change here.
Something,
I'm not really sure what.
Something doesn't feel right. Nothing bad ever happened, but lots of good conversations with people that were open and like, oh yeah, we can crate our dog. I'm like, oh, I just had to ask. You know, sometimes you just need to ask, like, could you make this environment a little bit more safe for me to come into your home when your dog is like defending your, you know.
Yeah, when your dog wants to like eat me as I like walk in your house.
Your Great Dane there that could fit my head in its mouth.
Yeah.
So, you know, I've been very fortunate and have not had any really negative experiences. So I think the biggest takeaway was, again, learning like what not to do. You know, having the dogs dragging me down the street. It's like, this doesn't feel good. You know, I can't feel my elbow anymore. You know, so learning how to walk them and teach them leash work. And a lot of it was like learning on the job. And then the owners were like, oh, how, you know, I'm sending them video of their dogs and updates. And they were like, oh, how did you do that?
You magician.
You. So that turned into showing them what I was doing. And that led me into the passion for training of like, you know, this is really more about your relationship with your human than my relationship with your dog. I want you to have what I've been able to access from your dog over a very short period of time. It doesn't take too much, just a little bit of modifications with how you approach the leash.
Yeah. And we sort of got into dog training in the same way. Like that's how I got into it, is I started walking dogs. And I think it's one of the best ways to kind of get into the dog training industry because of how owner focused walking dogs is. You're typically there very consistently, if not every day. You see how the people are living with their dogs. You interact with the clients. Like you have a very close relationship with them. You know how they're interacting with their own dogs. And so you're like, you see like all of the correlations between like, these dogs that have these behavioral issues, you know, the owners are doing X, Y, and Z.
Cheez-It wants to say hi.
Cheez-It. Oh my goodness, I love you.
He's the golden retriever of cats.
He's massive.
He's a big boy.
He's so big.
I don't know what he is, but I think he has like Maine Coon in him or something. He's a big boy.
Yeah, he has to.
Yeah.
I love him. He's like, a box. I must sit in this. So anyways, what was kind of like a big takeaway for you that you wanted to make the transition from walker to trainer? Like I know for me, one thing that I kind of like struggled with my clients was they were almost kind of treating me like the help.
Yes.
You know, they're like, you're just the dog walker. Like shut up and walk my dog. And I'm like, I just want to help you, you know?
Yeah, I remember feeling that. It felt a little bit like, you know, like it's still a service industry, but it's not regarded the same way as a trainer.
Oh, not at all.
And the relationship aspect of it, of like seeing the human interacting with the dog and learning how to communicate with the human, like that's where my passion started to grow. Like I wanted to help them so they could help their dog. I wanted them to have what I could access with their dog in that short period of time. So I think that's what sealed the deal for me of like, I really want to do more and get into training. Yeah. So I actually have a kind of funny story how I got actually like how the door opened into training for myself. I had a cattle dog who's no longer with me. Her name was Bindi. We were in Tractor Supply store, and cattle dogs are super aloof. They're like, they don't want to say hi to people. And she actually kind of pulled me toward a person that was in an aisle. And I was like, this is bizarre. Like you never want to say hi to people, but I'm going to go with it. And this person was a dog trainer. And we're talking, I didn't know she was a dog trainer at the time. We're talking about dogs and, you know, I'm a dog walker. And she's like, oh, I'm a dog trainer. And she ended up inviting me to an event where she was going to be coaching a reactive clinic. And here that was like my open door into training. My dog dragged me to this person. And I was like, okay, thank you, Bindi. So that's what opened the door truly to like give me the relationship to build with this company. I started as a kennel tech and was shadowing them for a long period of time, took their classes there, and then came in to work for them.
Nice.
Yeah.
How was your experience working for a facility?
It was good. It was like, you know, starting up being really open-minded to learning, removing ideals that I had as like, oh, I saw this on YouTube and I feel like this is how you train dogs.
Yeah.
Versus like, oh, this is how you train dogs. And I was very black and white minded at the time. I really wanted to know like exactly how to do or exactly how to fix every little thing, and wanted it to be like a blanket, like this is how it works for all the dogs.
Yeah.
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 And it was like such an eye-opening wake-up call to see that it wasn't at all like that. It wasn't at all like that. So I think the greatest experience was like I worked as a kennel tech and took care of the boarding dogs and got lots of experience with lots of different types of dogs and got to shadow a lot of the classes and a lot of the training, and learned it's a lot more like an art form, like free flow, like riffing, than it is about black and white answers.
Yeah.
It's never
and we were just
like
talking about that, about how like, you know, new dog trainers want like these black and white, like, oh, this is what you do with this sort of thing. Or even when you're talking to owners too, they're like, well, you know, my dog is doing this. What is the solution to this? And you're like, oh, it depends.
It depends.
You know, and that's like the dog trainer go-to is like, well, it depends. And like when you're a new trainer, you get like frustrated by that. You're like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah,
like,
I want the real
give
answer.
me an answer, you know, but like that is the answer. And as you become more experienced, you're like, oh, I'm transforming into that old dog trainer who told me.
It depends.
It depends, you know?
Yeah.
And like the best dog trainers out there are the ones who can look at a dog and like read that dog and be able to decide what that dog needs in the moment.
Absolutely. And even the owner dynamic with the dog.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's one thing that I talk about all the time is like, you know, what I would do with a dog isn't what I tell owners to do with a dog.
Absolutely.
Because I know what owners are going to do. And that's one thing that I think I'm really good at. And especially from like my background of like walking dogs and then just kind of like the format of our training, like we do daily training, right? So we're with the owners Monday through Friday for an hour each day. So we get very, very close to them. Like, you know, how often do you get to like see somebody every single day?
Absolutely.
You know, like you can only hide so much. You know, the first couple sessions, you're like, you know, very professional with them. And then like you show up to their house and they're like, oh, I got coffee. Like, hold on, let me drink my coffee before I'm like a functioning human being. Or like, I don't know, you really get to like see people in their natural state.
Yeah.
So I feel like I've been able to kind of learn very quickly, you know, what people are doing, what owners are doing, and what owners are willing to keep up with, and what owners are willing to do in their training is very different than what maybe I would suggest like a dog trainer do.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. The expectations that we might have as dog trainers have to be adjusted, right? Like these people have other jobs. They're gone through the day.
Their whole life is not just training
their
their
whole
dog.
life isn't just dogs. Absolutely.
What a crazy concept.
Absolutely.
Normies?
Normies. I just used that term the other day with somebody. You know, like a normie. Yeah. We're not normie.
No, I've like given that up so long ago. I'm like, oh fuck, I'm like such a crazy person. I can't function in regular society. Have you like hung out with a normie in a bit? No, you haven't.
No.
I can tell by this response right now.
I'm like scanning through.
I can't.
No.
It's like so unrelatable.
No, it's not relatable. My friends are dog trainers and they're the best.
Yeah.
We're the best people.
Got a few screws loose.
Got a few screws loose.
But we're a great time.
We're
a great time. Like I don't even know how to like function with people who aren't like training dogs 24/7. It's so bad.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So one of the things that I wanted to talk with you about, and we were kind of talking about before we started recording, is your swan analogy.
Yeah.
Explain your swan analogy today. So before I came over here, she was like, just so you know, I'm kind of like going through it a little bit and I feel like I'm a swan.
Yeah, the appearance of like if you picture a swan on the water, it's like graceful and flowing. Everything looks fine.
Yeah.
Under the surface, paddling like fucking hell.
Very relatable.
Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit about that and kind of like, I don't know, we're both on social media, which is like a whole thing. And, you know, there's like the perception of that, like how people perceive us versus, you know, like we're running a business, and then also like the personal side of things. So you're like, hey, just so you know, like I'm gonna going through this, and like I was like, oh girl, don't worry, I'll tell you my drama, and it'll make yours even better. And like here I am bitching about like my stupid situationship, and it's like there's always some stuff kind of going on in the background, and I feel like we never really get to like acknowledge that. Like you always get to, or you always kind of have to pretend like everything is fine, either for social media or for like your business. And it's like, no, we're over here having mental breakdowns.
We are actually having a mental breakdown right now. Yes. Going through it. You know, I show up for my clients. I show up on social media, but in the background, I'm like, I'm going through it right now.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
It's not easy. I won't make you like talk in depth about, you know, like the details of everything.
Of course.
But like, what are some ways that you kind of, you know, handle the like personal side of things, the social media side of things, the business side of things? Like, how do you balance it all?
Yeah. So learning lesson for myself, and I'm a mom. I've got 3 kids, got 3 cats, and 3 personal dogs in a foster. I think I like the number 3.
You have a lot.
Yeah.
You have a lot. You're a crazy person. You're crazy girl.
I'm a crazy girl.
Crazy girl.
I like crazy. It's like boring if not. Like what else would I do?
Exactly.
What else would I be doing?
Yeah.
So I like to focus on everything but me.
Yeah. It's almost like you like to take care of everybody else.
I love to take care of everybody else.
It's so much better, right?
It's so much better. But when at the end of the day, everything's taken care of and I stop and I'm like, ooh, there's me.
I feel like I'm a little bit in the same position as you. Like, you obviously have children, so it's a little bit different. I have like employees, but I don't want to say burden, but just kind of like the weight of being the person that always takes care of everybody else. You said this probably like 3 times. This is our first time meeting, by the way. Yes. And you've already said this about like 3 times about like, oh, I take care of everybody. You know, I'm that person. I take care of everybody. Nobody needs to take care of me.
No one needs to take care of me.
Yeah.
I take care of me.
Yeah.
Sort of. No, and that's the moral of the story is I have to start taking care of myself. I can't properly show up for everybody else unless I'm taking care of myself.
It's so much better to take care of everybody else, though. Let's be real.
It's so much better.
I don't want to say better, but like,
no, it's easier.
It's
easier. This is where like the hard work comes in, where like at the end of the day, we're like, oh, there I am in the mirror, and I got to deal with that.
Oh shit! I have to sit with myself.
There I am.
Yeah, I was like talking to her about like, I don't know. She was like, you know, I'm just kind of going through it, and like, I don't want to like be a burden. I was like, girl, like I have had so many mental breakdowns on this drive.
I might cry.
Yeah, I'm like, we welcome the mental breakdowns, but she was like, I need to go on a road trip and sit with my thoughts.
I do
for 9 hours straight. And I'm like,
do.
You really do. It's like very cathartic.
Yeah.
To just kind of like sit with yourself and feel that, because I think so many of us in this industry are kind of in the same position, you know, because it's like, at the end of the day, we're doing animal husbandry. Like, we're taking care of animals, we're taking care of clients, we're kind of taking care of everybody around us. And who is there to take care of us?
Yeah, at the end of the day, I have to show up for myself. You know, it's doing things for myself that are fulfilling, right? Like, I really, truly look at it like fulfillment of dogs is very important. Right? We want our dogs to have movement. We want them to have exercise. We want them to have exploration and appropriate rest. We need the same things for ourselves. So if I'm grinding all day long and I never prioritize fulfillment for myself, I'm like, ugh, I'm not a good person. I actually think just like loving our dogs by giving them structure, boundaries, like I have to love myself by giving myself more structure. So signed up at the gym and signed up for a personal trainer because I need the accountability. So I look at that a lot like I'm a dog trainer and I'm giving my clients some level of personal accountability, showing up, doing their homework, making progress each week. I can see if they are or if they aren't. Mm-hmm. My personal trainer, she like sniffs me and she's like, you had chocolate. I'm like, yes, I did. Absolutely, I did. You called me out. You see it. It's so similar. It's crazy. So yeah, it's been a great outlet for myself to start exercising and eating better. So that's been for me like the thing that's brought me back to a stronger state. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's kind of like you can't, pour from an empty cup.
Yeah.
And I think that's so normal for especially like women in this industry.
I mean, we will squeeze every last drop out of that empty cup.
I mean, can relate. I mean, I like ran away from my business for a whole, what are we, a month and a half in? People are like, I think I missed something. Like, why are you traveling across the country? And I'm like, I just needed to take some time off. Don't mind me. Just losing my mind a little bit over here.
I've gone into flight. Absolutely.
Fight or flight. We are gone. We are out of here.
Yeah.
We're in random states. But yeah, I think it's like very, very common for, I say women in the industry because I don't know, I think like naturally we're just kind of like caretakers and, empathetic.
Yeah.
We want to take care of everybody around us. We want to take care of our clients. We want to take care of the dogs that we train. And we definitely kind of like put ourselves on the back burner.
Yeah.
But like, social media doesn't always show that. And I feel like sometimes I'm like very open about like me being a crazy person, having mental breakdowns and all that jazz.
Yeah.
But I think, on social media, when you're just like sitting there watching it, it's very like normal to get into the like comparison mode of, oh my God, this person is like doing so much better than me. Or even like what you're doing. And I'm like, oh, she's just so much better than me in like so many ways, but it's like you don't really know like the behind the scenes.
Yeah. I've thought that about you too though.
No.
I mean, seriously, it's like, I don't know. I always think the least of myself, in those moments where I'm like, I need to get my shit together and I need to focus on myself when I have those like weak moments of like, look at all these people doing so much better than me. And like,
honestly, Instagram is the worst.
The comparison thing.
I am not really a social media person in that I don't like consume a lot of social media, but I have to say like probably in the past week, and just because I've been like, to be fully transparent, like a little more lonely. I've like been traveling alone by myself. So I'm like, I just find myself like on Instagram more. I think Instagram is truly the worst for comparison.
Yeah.
The worst. And not just in like the dog training sense, but I don't know, I kind of come from like the fitness industry. And so I have like all of these fitness people that I follow and I'm like, oh my God, I'm such a like piece of shit, like I don't look like that, or like I'm not exercising enough, or I'm not doing this. It's so easy to get caught up in that like comparison stuff. And even too with dog training, like you see what other people are doing with their dogs or their dog training businesses, and it's so easy to be like, oh my gosh, they're doing so much more than me.
Absolutely. It is very challenging. And I've gone through, on my Instagram where I've been like super dedicated to like pumping out content consistently, and then I stop and immediately things drop off and I'm like, oh no, everyone hates me. Like, literally
everyone hates me.
Literally. Like
I'm gonna lose all my followers.
My following's dropping off. And like I really have these moments of like, wow, why am I allowing this to like affect me in this way?
Isn't it crazy?
Oh, it's awful. It's awful. Like,
and it like really doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'm showing up for my people. I'm working on showing up for myself, but I think it's important to acknowledge that, like, if you follow either of us, like, we don't have our shit together.
Oh, fuck no.
We are surviving just like y'all.
I hope that I've gotten that message across that, like, I do not have my shit together.
Yeah.
But I think that's important. You know,
Yeah, absolutely.
I did a podcast recently. I don't even know when I did this podcast, and I hated it. I wanted to take it down so bad because I felt like I just like fucking rambled the whole episode. And I had like a few people reach out to me and they're like, hey, I really liked that episode because you were like super vulnerable. I think I talked about like the criticism that comes with like online stuff and how like, you know, everybody thinks that they have like an opinion on you and like what you do because you're just like public.
Yeah.
And I kind of like, you know, peeked behind the curtain of like, hey, sometimes that stuff like actually hurts my feelings.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like really difficult to handle. And I wanted to take the podcast episode down so bad. And I got a few people who were like, hey, you rambled a little bit, but it was a really cool message because you have all of these followers, you know, and you have like what, 70 something thousand followers on Instagram. Like that's a lot of fucking people that like watch you.
Yeah. It's a pressure. Absolutely.
It's wild, isn't it?
It is. It's
I think people with followers need to be like studied.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing to be perceived by that many people. Like even when I post a story and like thousands of people see it, I'm like, imagine if I was standing in front of a room of that many people.
Yeah.
That would be wild.
That would be wild.
Every day.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like think about when you
I just
like
broke out with a sweat.
like think about when you post a story and like however many people see that, like imagine standing in a room of that many people. Like that's
My
crazy.
heart rate is going up right now. Like literally.
This is literally what I think about every single day. I'm like, oh my gosh, 3,000 people have seen my story. Imagine if I was standing in an auditorium of 3,000 people.
I've never thought about it that way. Thank you for that now.
Well, I wanted to be a professor really bad. And so I think about like the big auditoriums like at UCF. And UCF is like a really big school.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what, like 1,000 people?
They're just all glaring at you.
But like imagine when you make a post and you get like thousands and thousands of people.
Yeah. And
that shit's wild.
it is wild. And sometimes I have trainers reach out asking me for advice or how did you start your social media or, you know, what advice do you have for me? I'm afraid to post something. And, it's challenging because I do like my feelings are hurt if I have someone that messages me telling me like, you know, I disagree with you about, you know, you can disagree with me. That's fine. Like we're all entitled to opinions, but like full on like picking apart and resharing it and breaking it down in some kind of way that's like making me sound like a terrible person. I'm like,
no, isn't that wild?
I just was doing long line work with this dog. Like, what happened? Like the dog looked sad, but it was like calm and it's picked apart in some way that's like
30 seconds of your life is like analyzed.
Yeah. And it makes it hard to show back up, honestly. Like I have literally like dropped off because I'm like, I'm afraid to post something again. I don't want that to happen again, but I don't want to stop providing value. So, I mean, it has stopped me from providing value because I'm afraid of dealing with that again, but it's a process.
Oh my God. I posted a reel for the first time last week.
The dog park one?
Dog parks.
Yeah. I saw that.
My gosh.
You poor thing.
It's honestly
I feel
like,
bad for the children you don't have. I saw that.
I'm like, bro, why'd you have to bring my like unborn children into this?
That's just the like boldness of keyboard warriors.
Oh my gosh.
Forgetting that we're humans behind here.
It cracks me up.
Yeah.
It like, honestly, at this point, it doesn't affect me too much because it can't. Like if it did,
you can't let it.
And also, I know what I'm doing when I make those posts. I know what.
I know what's coming.
I know what's coming.
You know what's coming. You asked for it.
I know. I'm like, no dog parks, no doggy daycares. I'm like, close my eyes, post that shit. I know what's about to happen.
Cringe.
But honestly, it's information that I wish somebody would have shared with me. So it's not like I'm just like doing it for like shits and giggles. It's like, no, this is honestly valuable information. And also like 90% of the dogs that I get have had like horrible traumatizing experience at dog parks and doggy daycare. So whatever.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So social media is...
It's a beast.
It's a beast. It's a beast in itself. Yeah. But honestly, like at the end of the day, I'm very grateful that like that many people want to follow us and listen to us as far as like dog training guidance go. And it does give us kind of like an insight into the dog owner world.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
Like we're very plugged into what owners need help with because so many people are like reaching out to us for help with their dogs.
Absolutely.
So I kind of want to get into that a little bit about your method of training. We were talking a little bit earlier, like I've met with all of these dog trainers and I'm like, at the end of the day, we're all kind of doing, you know, the same stuff. We're not doing anything that's, you know, kind of different, but I've met with a lot of like these sport dog people and we train very similarly in that we're very big on like state of mind stuff.
Absolutely.
So talk to me about your kind of foundation of training and your beliefs as far as like, you know, what you do.
Yeah. So the first thing that I like to teach a dog or teach people to teach the dog is how to offer calm behaviors, not put them in obedience. I feel like obedience is about how a dog looks, where state of mind is about how a dog feels. And I don't want to punch the dog into a position where they're like anticipating release from the kennel or release from the door. I'm like, let's just wait.
Oh, music to my ears. Music to my ears.
Like put the lo-fi music on and let's just wait until the dog's like, oh, you're up there. Can we go out that door together? You know, just calm it down, slow it down. There's so much value in waiting for calmness versus that like break and like the dog's flying out the door, you know, after asking them for a sit. So yeah, I focus on state of mind over obedience, simply put. So focusing on a follow, I call it, on the leash or the loose leash walk.
Yeah.
It's more of a state of mind or a behavior versus teaching a focused heel where I'm like dropping food every 2 seconds to a dog. I want them to just groove with me. Like just move. You're following me on the leash, just around me. Like reactive dogs, definitely I want a little bit more behind, but as long as you're not pulling on the leash, I am happy. So yeah, I start with more thinking about what the dog is feeling versus what the dog looks like.
And I think that's huge, especially in like the pet industry. I think right now everything is very trendy around like fancy obedience and like play. I think those things are valuable, but so many people are struggling with their dog's behavior. And it's like, why are we trying to play with your reactive dog when they're like clearly exploding at this other dog, you know?
I've never had someone reach out to say, how do you get my dog more excited?
Right.
Never.
And that's how I differentiate like experienced dog trainers from inexperienced dog trainers is they're like, oh, solve this problem with playing tug with your dog immediately out of the car when they're like losing their mind. And I'm like, why would you ever do that?
Yeah.
Like that would never solve anything. Whereas like we kind of focus on like free shaping calm.
Yeah.
You know, waiting for the dog to offer us the state of mind that we want before we continue in the training.
Absolutely. I mean, I think play is valuable. It's a part of the process, but I don't bring it in at the start.
No.
I bring it in at the end.
Yes.
Or whenever it's appropriate. Absolutely.
I think obedience is an advanced skill.
Absolutely. It's something to plug in once you've mastered that relationship with your dog, that calm state of mind with your dog. It's like an extra. It's like a bonus feature.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I found my people.
I found my people. I found my people.
No, that's like what I talk so much about. And my trainers come from the experience of like obedience. Mm-hmm. And so I'm trying to unlearn them.
Yeah.
You know, like unteach them all of these things that they've learned of basically just like drill this dog with obedience.
Yeah.
And it's just like that is not how we solve behavioral issues. You have to first have a dog that is neutral and stable, and then we can do obedience, and then we can work on getting them excited and like pumped up for training sessions and all that sort of stuff. But really like the foundation is around, you know, that state of mind.
Yeah. I did a group session today for some of my training clients that have been working with me. And one of the biggest things I told them was, don't worry about trying to like have your dog keeping alongside. Like if we're walking, we're going through this like a farm. There's horses, there's cows, there's pigs, there's goats.
I can't believe you did a group session.
I know, crazy.
At a farm. Why love
not?
That. I don't
Why
know.
not?
I just would not do that.
It's like
let's sprinkle in some more chaos into a group
my
class.
headphones fell off. Hang on.
No, but I mean, you like did it, you know?
Yeah, and these guys already had foundations and they knew how to do leash work and how to obtain the loose leash walk. And we did a warm up beforehand in a field, but it was kind of like, it's lifestyle training. It's like,
yes.
Let's take this shit on the road and all right, let's look for holes. Your dog is disconnected and pulling ahead of you. Let's work on that. Let's stop right here. Like I had 2 people helping me in the session, in the group class. And everyone just kind of scattered around and did their thing and we floated around and, you know, reminders like what I tell people, if you're walking your dog and you get your loose leash walk dialed in before you start, you get your warm up, right? And you go and your dog starts pulling toward a bush, get back to it, start over. There's a great opportunity to reconnect. So like you might never make it around your block or your route. Just work on your leash work the whole time and your dog's gonna be so much more connected to you. So in the farm, you know, I had my cattle dog and there's cows and she's like, oh my God. My people. She lost her ever loving mind. And she was probably like the most ill-behaved dog out of all of the dogs. I'm like, well, you know, you guys are the ones paying me for training. No one's paying me.
I know. I tell people that all the time. I'm like, bro, I spend all day training dogs. You think I'm going to go home and train my own? Like,
Oh
no,
my
I would
God.
let them be
I'm in
chaotic.
survival mode over here, people. My dog is great. I love her. But yeah, she saw her people and she like popped off and it was like a vulnerable moment of like, hey, look, we're not perfect.
Even
over
my
here.
dog loses it, you know?
Yeah. So a couple people were like, that was really helpful to see that happened to you, first of all, that you were humble about it and that how you reconnected her, like how you built it back up and kept going, like without freaking out, you know, and dragging her away. It's like, no, this happens. I have a spicy, you know, redneck Malinois.
Yeah. And so many people struggle with that. Can you walk us through, to the best of your ability, how you would, you know, guide a client through that?
Yeah, absolutely. So directional changes. Absolutely. If your dog goes ahead of you and in the moment they're in pressure, stop.
Oh, bitch, we need to do a fucking
Cheers.
seminar together.
Let's do a seminar.
Oh my God.
Just stop moving. Stop. Don't walk forward. Your dog is pulling. Stop. Turn around. Go the other way. Or start to back up.
The rule is your dog should never put pressure on the leash.
The moment they do, if they do, stop. Just stop. Back up. Go the other direction. Go back and forth. Reconnect. Go forward again. They'll be like, oh, that doesn't work.
It can never work.
It can never work. You
Pulling
can never
on
let
the
it work.
leash can never work.
You can never let it work.
I think that's the
Absolutely.
biggest thing that I like struggle with people is they're like, but you know, I did the things that you told me to do and my dog still pulls me over to the grass. And I'm like, you're getting too far.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like your dog shouldn't ever be putting pressure on the leash.
Yeah.
The game is there should never be pressure on the leash and you should never move forward when there is pressure on the leash.
Yeah, absolutely. That teaches the dog how to pull. If your dog goes to pull and you step forward, they're like, oh, that's how to get forward.
Yes.
So it's like, you know, I have a husky. His life is best lived pulling, but he knows if he's on his slip lead or if I have the nose loop on him, he's along my side. He won't, well, I lied. You know, I have to warm him up. I have to connect him.
Yeah.
Do a couple directional changes with him. And then he's like, oh yeah, because he's pushy.
Right. And that's something that I have all of my owners do. I say, before you go for a walk, I want you to do some walking drills out in front of your house.
Yeah.
You know, like before you even walk out of your house, have your dog check in with you. If they're not checked in with you, you're not ready to go for a walk.
And I think, yes, that I do the same thing.
Yeah.
And also, if your dog becomes disconnected in the middle of the walk, there's a great opportunity to rebuild that. It's like, it doesn't mean you failed. It doesn't mean you didn't do it right when you left your house. If your dog starts pulling toward a bush, there's your opportunity to work your leash work again, reconnect, go forward. They go, oh, on you go. Release your dog to sniff when it's like your idea, right? I stop. I ask my owners to wait for their dog to check in with them. And then I tell them to give them their release word. Go ahead and sniff. Don't pull. But like, you can have more freedom at the end of the leash. But yeah, always, it's like, that's lifestyle training to me. Every moment my dog is like making a poor choice per se, pulling toward something, I'm like, there's a training opportunity. And the more consistent you are with that, the more consistent your dog learns to stay by your side.
Yes.
Most of them.
And dogs know what works.
Absolutely.
So if you allow your dog to pull you some of the time, they're always going to go to that. They're always going to go back to pulling. So like, even with my dogs, when I'm walking all 4 of them, I do walking drills.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
like,
me too.
I still am doing walking drills. My dogs know the expectation of heel, but they will still try me. And I never, ever, ever allow them to pull. So imagine if you allow your dogs to pull, what you're going to have to work through every single time you go for a walk.
Every single time.
I feel like we're very similar and that like the walk is kind of the foundation of what we do.
The walk is the foundation. I had a client reach out to me one time that had a huge yard and her dog didn't listen to her and she just wanted recall with her dog. And I explained to her that the leash walk is an important part. And she was like, oh, we don't walk. And I had to tell her, I'm sorry, I'm not right for you. Because that's the foundation of my training is on the walk. That's where you build your relationship with your dog. I mean, there's a lot of other components that go in the home. But if we don't have the walk, I don't know what you have.
Right.
Yeah.
You would be so surprised. Like so many dog trainers either don't walk the dogs or they hate it. They're like, I hate walking.
Oh, I love it.
I just want to do obedience. And I'm like, obedience makes me want to die. I hate training obedience.
Like sitting at a desk and like having to just fill in those little like circles, on those tests all day long.
I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it so much.
No.
When like obviously I have to teach obedience to the dogs that come to us for training, but I literally I give the dogs to the trainers and I'm like, teach this dog a place command. Like I don't want to do this. Like it's so monotonous and it's so boring and it's like not that valuable, honestly. Like I love just walking dogs.
Yeah. I teach place as obedience, but I don't teach obedience on place.
Explain.
Yeah.
Explain.
So I learned this from Sherry Lucas.
Okay. I love it already.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I teach a dog place, I'm usually doing leash work, 180 drills, and then I'll bring them up to the place board and lead them on and tell them place. And I don't let the dog off. I'll use my body to block them until they look at me. And then I say, let's go.
Okay.
So they start to learn I have to connect and calm down to gain access to come off. Right?
Okay.
So then I start to increase my criteria. I wait for them to sit and then they look at me and I say, let's go.
Okay.
And
this is what I do. This is validating.
Okay. I don't put them in obedience. I don't tell them sit or I don't
tell them. No, I don't tell them that either. I don't put them in a command.
Yeah. I don't put them in a command. I literally
will wait for them to like settle.
Yeah. Okay. Same.
Nice.
I wait for them.
Nice. Okay. I know what I'm doing.
You pass. And then, when they offer the down and they relax, then I'm like, let's go. So it's always calm. I don't do like a hot release from place. I don't break. Yeah. I don't do an excited. Let's go is my like, move with me. Yeah. You're still in like a follow state of mind. I train Panda with obedience and he's still like, she'll shoot off. She'll make the place board fly like 5 feet, when she jumps off. I'm like, oh, good Lord. But Piper, Stan, Obi are like calm. They'll walk off like, okay, we're done with that. So you don't gain access of freedom until you're calm. off place. Because my goal is I don't want to manage my dog and put them on place all day long. I want them to learn how to just be calm and jive in the home with me.
You want to teach them how to think for themselves.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Think for yourselves. Check in with me when you need something.
You know, so many dog trainers don't do that. Everything is obedience.
That seems like
Crazy.
so much work.
Crazy, right? Like literally
Like naggy.
everything is obedience. Like the dogs are always in a command. You come to the door, sit. The dog goes into a sit. Break.
No thanks.
Dog goes place. Place.
Yeah.
Break.
Yeah.
Like
No, just teach your dog how to live with you.
you cannot, like the dogs cannot think. And I know because I'm getting these dogs for like board and trains.
Yeah, same.
Because they've already been through trainers who just drill obedience. And it's like, you are not teaching your dog how to think for themselves. And even today I did my Q&A and I got a question from somebody. They're like, are your dogs just always in command? And I'm like, my dogs are never in command.
Yeah.
I'm a bit of a place hater, not because I don't like place, but because I think people use it as a crutch and it can almost become detrimental because they're like, oh, I'll just use place to solve all of my behavioral problems. And then it becomes an opportunity for the dog to break a command.
Yeah.
You know? So
I
imagine.
don't correct a dog for breaking a place. Actually, I just tell them to go back on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just bring them back.
Yeah. In the beginning, I think it's very valuable because you're giving a dog like, here's a space for you to calm the fuck down.
Yes. I think as a trainer,
Yeah.
place is valuable.
Yeah.
But when I'm teaching it to owners,
Yeah.
it becomes a place for the dog to be like, I know what I'm supposed to do, but I'm going to break this anyways because I can.
Yeah.
So like, I really like tying dogs back because
Sure.
like, imagine if, you know, you just have an owner, they're not really going to be able to hold their dog to place if somebody comes in the door, right?
Yeah.
So like, why would I tell that dog to go to place when I know that the owner is not going to hold that dog accountable to staying on place when somebody comes in? I would rather not put that dog in a command at all and tie them back and just prevent them from rushing the door or jumping up on guests and prevent the behavior instead of saying like, go to place. I feel like a lot of trainers use place as like a crutch to solve behavioral issues by basically putting the dog in an obedience command. And then they're like, oh, well, the dog broke the obedience command, so we have to correct them for breaking the obedience command, instead of just teaching the dog like, I don't want you to do this thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Just don't jump. Don't be crazy.
Right.
Just chill out.
Just like use your leash to prevent those things instead of being like, go here and stay here.
I think that's the number one forgotten thing that people want to or forget to keep utilizing is like, just put your dog on the leash.
Oh, I love the leash.
Just put your dog on the leash. It's not like shackles.
I know.
It's just guidance.
All of my questions that I get on like my Monday Q&As, I literally just want to like hold up the leash.
This is the answer.
This is your answer to everything. They're like, when I hug people, my dog jumps or
leash
starts humping. And I'm like, leash.
It's
How do I keep my dog from running in the street?
Leash. Yeah, I have someone that's working through reconditioning the kennel. The dog, kenneled when they were a puppy and then graduated from it.
Right.
Now the dog is starting to be a little destructive in the house. So they reached out for training and I'm like, great.
The crate.
Magic. The magical crate. And they were like, you know what? Actually, the dog goes under the bed a lot and like hangs out under the bed. And I was like, there's a great indicator that your dog
needs to crate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't that so sad? That literally breaks my heart.
Yeah.
We have this client who they're like an older couple and they're super anti prong collar, they're anti e-collar, they're anti crate. And they literally just have like this feral dog like living in their house.
Yeah.
And this poor dog is like Lucy, like a field line golden retriever. And Lucy, if I do not crate her, like I was out in the forest all day yesterday and she literally came up to me and just gave me this look like, please put me in the box.
Help me. Put me in the box.
I need to rest, and that's how this dog is. And like these owners are like, that's so mean. And I'm like, this dog is literally begging to be crated, and like you're not
I have
giving
days
it
like that.
space. Oh, I would love to be. I mean, I am crated. Like my van, like just
it's your crate, it's your den.
Put me in there. She's like, "Do you want to sleep in the house?" And I'm like, "I don't think I can sleep in a house."
Yeah, I did offer. I was like, "We have an extra bedroom." No, I like the crate. I would like to be in my
when
crate.
I was in California for the fight, I like stayed at my new friends, one of their Airbnbs, and they're like, we can like share the room. And I was like, I'm going to say this and I mean it. I cannot sleep in a home anymore.
You've become feral.
And they're like, what do you mean? And I was like, I've slept in my van so much that like, I don't think that I can sleep in a house. And they're like, no, you can sleep in the Airbnb. And I'm like, I'm going to go sleep in my van in the driveway. Like I'm literally Lucy. I'm like, I need to go put myself in the crate.
Go in the crate. It's okay.
Yeah. I always like explain to my owners, I'm like, the crate is basically like if you were at work and you were really stressed or you were really overwhelmed and your boss was like, hey, there's a dark, quiet room down the hallway. Why don't you go and chill out in there? You would be like, oh, thank God. Like, thank you. Yes, I would love that.
Yeah.
Like, that's what the crate is to our dogs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Think of, you're a guest somewhere and the only space for you is the couch and you want to go to bed at like 8 p.m. You're exhausted, but everyone's hanging out until 10 p.m. and you're like, oh my God, I really want to go
my worst
somewhere
nightmare.
else. Like I'm trying to rest. I'm laying on the couch. You're all being obnoxious and noisy. I want to go somewhere else. That like go to the crate. Just go to the crate.
Yeah.
Give your dog their bedroom.
That's so funny that you say that. I was literally the child. Like my parents would have parties at our house when I was little. I was literally like 3.
Yeah.
And I would kick all of my like cousins out of my room and I'd be like, it's 9 p.m.
It's my bedtime.
It's my bedtime. Like,
go home.
Get the fuck out. And I would lock everybody out and they would go to my parents and be like, Meg locked us out of the room. Because like everybody would be playing and I'm like, sorry, 9 p.m. time to
closed.
go. Like we're closed. We're closing up for the night. Wrap it up.
Call. Lights off.
Literally. I'm like, oh shit, nothing has changed.
Nothing has changed. I mean, that truly is our dogs though. I mean, they want a space where they can go chill.
All right, so we got the loose lead walk. That's a huge foundation for us. We got the crate. What else you got? What other like pieces of dog trainer like goodness you got to share with us?
Yeah, I look at it like the calm zones, right? That's crate, place, and I'm like, Piper is on her bed.
A prime example.
And I didn't put her there.
She was like, this is my spot.
She chose to go there. It's her comfy spot. Honestly, like she would probably be on the couch, but there's not room for her at the moment. But my dogs gravitate to place because it's a calm zone. Because
you've conditioned that.
I condition and I don't correct them for coming off of it. I just put them back on.
Yeah.
Until they're calm. And then I'm like, now you can come off. You're fine.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes I need that reset myself.
Well, I was going to say, are you like into meditation and stuff?
I am. Yeah.
Gosh, let's talk about this. Yeah. Okay, so when you're meditating, like you never like punish yourself for not like focusing on your breath.
No, that's awareness. That's
right.
like
so you're like breathing, right?
Yeah.
You're breathing. Okay, we're gonna focus on the breath. In, out, in, out. Eventually your thoughts are gonna wander. Always come back to your breath.
Absolutely.
That's exactly what place is.
It is. Always come back to place. Always come back to place until you're like, all right, I'm good. Now I can come off.
Yeah.
Right. So that's my foundation. I start with place, crate, and by your side on leash. And that's loose leash walk. That's like always calm. Your safe spot is by your side on leash. And then that grows out recall, right? And again, that still builds into like by your side.
Do you formally teach recall or do you find that recall kind of shapes itself with the relationship that you're building with the dog?
100% the relationship with the dog. I think that recall is a big indicator of your relationship with your dog. The leash and recall, if your dog is like, whatever to me, that's like, wow, we're missing a lot here.
Right.
We're missing a ton here. So I really like to teach on the long line. I do a 15-foot long line. If the dog goes ahead, just stop. If your dog gets to the end of that 15 foot and goes into pressure, they're like, whoa, I'm not going forward anymore. And then they look behind and you're like, hi, I'm back
Hello,
here.
I am actually attached to the end of this leash.
And then call your dog back. I love to build in how to reward offered check-ins.
Yes.
It creates a bubble around you. Your dog is like, I'm aware of where you are. So I like to look at that, like the 15-foot leash teaches that bubble.
Yes.
And then I layer the e-collar with that. When they go out to that 15 foot, I just do a quiet touch, a tap on the e-collar, and they're like, hello. And they come back and yes. And I give food reward or I give intentional touch. Depends on what's really valuable for the dog. But yeah, it's a huge indicator of the relationship you have with the dog. If they're like constantly ground sniffing and not checked in at all or aware of where you are, they're like a half mile ahead of you. Like you either have a bloodhound or a problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I like emphasize a lot with my owners is I'm like, I don't want you talking. I don't necessarily want you giving your dog like a recall command, or even like one of the trainers that I was talking to today, she was like, oh, I taught the e-collar by, labeling recall. And I was like, you need to do the opposite. I want the dog to be visually paying attention to you. And when they're not, when they check out, when they're no longer focused in on you, that's when that pressure goes on, either the pressure of the leash or the pressure of the e-collar. I don't want that dog having to rely on
that verbal.
Yeah, and I think so many people get hung up on that. And I'm like, I don't formally teach recall, really. Like we do in the sense that I kind of create this like habit with the dogs that are boarding with us and do board and trains with us, and that like, let's go, all the dogs recall, we go inside, we go into the crates, they get fed, which is a reward. So they learn, oh, when she says, let's go or come, we all run back, we get rewarded, we get fed.
Yeah.
But it's not like I'm doing a recall session with the dog.
Yeah.
It's really a session based around like, are you focused in on me? If you're not focused in on me, that pressure is going to come on. And I think that's super valuable because so many dogs that I get who have already been trained are just trained on those verbal commands. The only thing that they know is to just pay attention to that verbal command. So you're constantly having to be like, come, sit, heel. And it's like, that's not really helpful for what we're trying to, get out of our dogs. I want the dog focused on me.
Yeah.
Visually paying attention to me, focused on where I'm at without me having to rely on that like spoken command. Because when a dog is focused on me, they're less focused on the environment, which means they're less reactive.
Absolutely.
They don't, have these behavioral issues that so many people struggle with.
I think it's important to remember that we are verbal. Dogs are not.
Yes.
Dogs are about pressure and they're about body language. So my favorite thing to do, if we're doing a recall session, it looks like that, like the quiet, like, yes, I do teach because safety, right? Like we're in Utah, there's like moose and mountain lions and shit. There's things that like I want to be able to recall my dog from if they are like all of a sudden, I mean, we have to be honest. Like,
but don't you think people get hung up on like, come, long line, food reward? That's recall training, but it's like there's so much more.
No, there's so much more than it's about it. Like maybe we just call it like a relationship recall.
Yeah.
We're going to make a new name for it.
Yes.
I
love that.
Yeah. It's like, I'll be like, okay, we're walking, just stop. What does your dog do?
Yeah.
Does it just keep walking forever? We have a problem.
Yeah. They literally don't give a fuck about you.
Yeah. So teaching that, like when you stop and back up, your dog's like, "Ooh, where are you going?"
Yeah.
And they come back to you, and then you reward that offered behavior. Again, it's like you're teaching your dog to think.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Or I get people who are like, well, what do you do if your dog like is walking a little bit out in front of you? And I'm like, I don't care as long as my dog is checking in with me.
Yeah.
Is that dog checking in with me? I care if
it's reactive.
Right.
I care if it's a scanner and anxious and it's like, constantly like scanning. But if it's like Piper can walk 10 feet ahead of me. I don't really care. She's old. But Panda, I want to my side or behind because she's a bitch.
Right. But you have to be strict with her,
Yes.
because if you give her like an inch, then you know that
Oh,
she's
yeah.
going to take it like the
Yeah.
next step, which is be reactive. And I talked about this on
Yeah.
a previous episode about how I work through reactivity is if I have a reactive dog, I'm super strict about heel.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to be super strict about heel, because if you break this heel position, I'm going to correct you, because if I don't correct you, you're going to be reactive, right? If I don't correct you for this little thing, this
It's
minor,
going to be a big thing.
it's going to be a big thing.
That's fair. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's going back to the like riffing off a dog and owner dynamic. You have to know what is right for that dog. And I have clients that I'm like, I don't care if your dog's a little bit ahead of you.
Yeah.
As long as he's responsive to where you are. If you move in a direction, they're aware of where you are, right? Like, I don't care if he's like a head click ahead of you. As long as you can get him back by your side if you need to, if you're like going into busyness in the city. But it just depends. There it comes again. It depends.
It just depends. The dog trainer answer.
Yes, it depends.
It really does, though.
Yeah, it does.
No, but this is like very refreshing to hear, especially because like, I don't know, I feel like very recently I've been surrounded by so many dog sport people, and it relies heavily on obedience.
Yeah.
But just kind of, you know, my experience in the dog training industry has been formed around like this state of mind stuff. Like this state of mind stuff is just so much more valuable to, I think, the average owner. And also I'm getting a lot of people who are doing like this heavy obedience training. Like they have a dog with like this crazy focused heel, but then their dog is still like reacting. Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy.
Like they're like, look at my focused heel, right? And then like the dog is in my house and it's like barking at other dogs that are in the house, and I'm like, I don't give a fuck about your focused heel.
Or like the moment it's out of the focused heel, they're like a shit show.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's what I'm saying. Is like,
and that's a huge
that's
indicator.
very trendy.
Yeah.
That's very trendy right now, is everybody's like real hard on the fancy obedience.
It's like, I don't care how a dog looks. I care how it feels. I've started doing a group class. Like, we're just going to work on building neutrality around each other, because it's like, how does our dog feel? Like, everyone wants the dog to be positive and friendly, and it's honestly the least important thing to me. If our dog, yeah.
Like, imagine if you're like super stressed out having a panic attack and I'm like, eat this candy right now. You would be like,
I probably would. I'm an emotional eater.
You're like, okay, I'll eat the candy.
Thank you. I feel better. I'm a bad example.
Shoving food down your throat.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
No, it's like the swing of like, either your dog is really forward and positive and is like, I want to say hi to everybody, or they're like negative and they're like, I hate everybody, fuck you. It's always neutrality. Like, we're always going to come back to that middle of like, no, just build neutrality. We can build positive associations through like counter conditioning, but my first goal is neutrality. Just ignore it. Like, yes.
Oh my gosh. Oh, so refreshing.
Yeah.
So
totally.
refreshing. The whole counter conditioning thing.
Yeah.
That is not where 90% of people are at.
It's complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I call it yes work. Like, yes.
I said this to somebody the other day and they're like, what the fuck is yes work? And I'm like, it's counter conditioning.
It's counter conditioning.
And they're like, I've never fucking heard yes work before. And I'm like, that's like what people are doing, like yes work, right? Yeah. So like, a dog looks at a trigger. Yes, the dog looks to you.
It's so counterintuitive. It's like, why are you saying yes when the dog's looking at the trigger? It's like,
well, it's the same as like correcting. You're just like disrupting it.
You're disrupting it with a positive marker word. Like, I'm like, don't try that until you can say yes and your dog's snapping to you like, food, what?
I don't think very many people are there for counter conditioning. No, I think that is like very specific to like dog trainers, like yes work stuff.
Absolutely. I do teach my clients that. That was something we focused on today. And I could show with Panda, like, she's like, oh my God, a cow. I want to eat that cow. And I was like, yes. And she snapped and looked at me. And then I don't wait for her to look back at the cow to say yes again. She'll look at the cow and be like, I'm thinking about eating the cow, but let me check in with my owner. And then I say, my criteria changes. Then when she looks at me, I say, yes, and feed her again. And then my goal
because
is
she made the right decision. She used
I
her little doggy brain.
her little doggy pea brain.
Yes.
It is about teaching the dogs how to make better choices, teaching them to think for themselves instead of constantly putting them on obedience. Absolutely. Yeah. So then she offers me the check-in. I'm like, yes. And then she calms down and then we can go. And she's like, oh, that cow's no big deal. Or like, I'm not actually a cowboy dog today. Not today, honey. I'm sorry.
I'm not actually a cowboy dog. I love that. I love that.
She wants to be.
Hot take. But I think more people mess up positive reinforcement than they do mess up like punishing their dog.
Yeah. I could see
like
that.
People are like, oh, my dog only listens when I have like food in my hand, or I don't know, like they get really hung up on like yes, and I'm like, explain to me why you're saying yes and why you're choosing, like when you're saying yes, like explain that to me, and they can't. You know,
well, I mean, it's human to want to pay. Right. So we're constantly in this mindset of like, give, like give a cookie, give a treat. And sometimes it's not the right time. And learning to differentiate, like, hey, like if we're trying yes work, if we say yes once and the dog is still fixating, abandon ship.
Yeah.
Interrupt that dog
not
with
the
pressure. Body language, you like scoop the dog up, move out, get out of town. Like leave it, let's go. You can try yes work. Absolutely. I love working that, but it's only going to work if you have the right conditions. And if it doesn't work the first time, abandon ship. Like you don't want the dog to continue to load and go popping off. And it's like, well, now we're in a shitty situation.
Yeah. Well, counter conditioning only works when you catch the dog before they have that like big explosive moment. And if you haven't like loaded your marker word well enough, then it's not really going to be super meaningful. That was something that I saw with like a lot of my new trainers. That's one thing that I really like about having trainers is I get to see what everybody is doing. And when I was a personal trainer, we all trained the same way. And I remember my boss was like, I don't know where you all learned this shit from, but every time I shadow your training sessions, you guys are all training the exact same way.
Wild.
And you're doing way too much. And at the time, and I was like, oh, whatever, you know? And now I'm like, that's literally me. Like I'm like that with my trainers. And I'm like, I don't know where y'all learned this, but you're all training the exact same way. Like you're all doing the same stuff. And I think, you know, kind of untraining them in that sense of like, why are you giving the dog so many yeses? That's something that I see a lot of when I'm working with, you know, some of my new trainers and I'm training them is they're just like, yes. And it just becomes like so unmeaningful to the dog.
The word has lost all meaning.
The word has lost all meaning. And that's kind of what I say when I say like, I think people mess up yes work a lot more than they do punishing their dog because people are so hesitant to like correct their dog. So they're very like mindful of it, you know?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
I don't think I have any owners that have like messed up their dog by like correcting them unfairly.
Yeah. No is not a bad word.
Right.
It's not.
But that's so like, that's such a big fear in people. And especially like on the internet, people are like, oh, the e-collar, people can use it incorrectly. I really don't get people that are using it incorrectly. No. Like I get people that are messing up yes and food rewards far more than people are messing up corrections.
Yeah, agreed. It's complicated to catch the right timing, grab the food, deliver it at the right time, then you drop it.
It's hard. Like counter conditioning is like a hard thing.
It is advanced. Yes. It is advanced. You know, in a board and train, absolutely. I'm going to take a dog out and work counter conditioning with it.
For sure.
In one-on-one lessons, that might look different.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that is, again, where it depends.
It depends.
It depends.
Yeah, my Monday Q&As are literally just going to be like, it depends. I don't know.
Yeah,
it depends. It depends. You just piss everybody off. Would that be great? All right, we've been talking forever. Are there any little pieces of advice that you want to share with the world while you have a microphone in front of your face?
I was thinking about this when you were talking about a dog that like can't function in freedom.
Yeah.
I just connected with a CBD company.
Oh, yes.
That could be really valuable for dogs like that. Halo Organics.
Yeah.
They're called. And Anthony is the owner. I've learned about him from some other trainers that I really respect and trust. So I now have formed a relationship with him, and I encourage you to check him out, or anyone that's listening to check him out.
I put some CBD in
your beverage.
In my beverage. I'm feeling great.
Feeling fine. So it's about like, it's kind of unfair to allow a dog to live in a state of chaos, right? Like if your dog is struggling with stillness, what can you do to support him? You can crate him, absolutely give him his room to relax in, or put him on place to dial it down. But adding high quality CBD could be valuable to just take it down a punch.
Take the edge off.
Take the edge off. It works in miraculous ways.
And I think that is kind of an aid to our dogs, because we're asking a lot of them. You know, we're asking our dogs to live in a very human world.
Absolutely. And they have pea brains. They have tiny brains.
It's literally not designed for them.
Constantly processing everything in their environment.
And we're asking them to live in apartments and homes and be inside all day and be calm. And it's like so many dogs were not bred for that. You know, so many dogs were like bred for jobs. Like you have a cattle dog.
Yeah.
You know, you're asking, you know, a cattle dog to live a house life when they really should be like wrestling cows.
Absolutely. She wrestles my kids.
Yeah.
Like she does. But yeah, it's true. You know, I do think, you know, I have a husky. We do pulling things. My cattle dog does bitey things. She gets to run. It is, you know, genetic fulfillment, biological fulfillment is important. It's a big part of my training plan as well with people. But it is a big ask, you know. This could be a whole other podcast, maybe another day, but thinking about the island dogs that are like feral, like leave them the fuck alone. They have the best life ever.
Oh my God, they're living their best lives. Oh my God, the people who go to other countries and think that they're like saving dogs.
Leave them alone.
Oh my gosh, leave them alone.
Yeah. They're living their best life. They're so neutral to their environments. They have food, they have water, they have resources. Just leave them be. They're so happy.
They're so happy.
And then you take them here and they're terrified of the world. And then you put them in an apartment. They're like, fuck my life.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. That's another podcast.
Yeah. That's a whole other episode.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
tell the people where to find you.
canyonscaninetraining.com. Or on Instagram, Canyons Canine Training.
Thank you so much for letting me into your home and setting up my, you know, whole ass podcast studio in your living room and keeping your children up. They have school tomorrow, right? Today's like Monday.
Yeah, they're chilling. They're fine.
I can't believe you have children.
I have children. I do.
I literally thought that you were my age.
I'm like a toddler.
I literally thought you were my age, and then her son like greets me and I was like, how old are you? He's like, I'm 16. And I was like, what?
I wasn't a teen mom, I swear. No judgment. I could have been. I look like I was, and we're just gonna leave it there.
No, they're like so sweet. Like you're raising good children.
They're good kids. I'm proud of them. Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you so much. This has been so much fun. We will definitely have to do another episode because I don't know. Feel like I found my people.
Yeah, thank you. Me too.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, thank you so much, and thank you everybody for listening. We will see you back here next week.